Welcome back to Campfire Cooking Book 3. This will be the second half. Chapter 4. Let's enjoy the dungeon. Fel congratulates Mukoda on obtaining an exceptionally powerful skill, casually remarking that it won't level up like Mukoda's other abilities. Mukoda's confused expression makes Fel pause, then sigh. What counts as common knowledge clearly isn't so common to somebody from another world. Fel explains that most skills improve as the user levels up. However, skills one is born with, or those directly granted by the gods, remain fixed. They're powerful from the start, but static. Their conversation carries them all the way to the dungeon's entrance. Mukoda attempts to purchase a map, but Fel stops him, insisting he can navigate purely by scent. Mukoda immediately realizes what this means. Fel is going to smell every monster and charge straight towards the biggest fights. The moment they enter the dungeon, they take off like racehorses. Weak monsters are ignored entirely as they blitz through the early floors. Traps activate constantly. Pitfalls, arrows, giant boulders. But between Fel's barrier and Mukoda's perfect defense, none of it leaves so much as a scratch. Mukoda wonders aloud why his skill activates against the traps at all. He assumed it would only work against living beings with hostile intent. Fel calmly reminds him that dungeons themselves are living entities. Anything inside them that attempts to cause them harm counts as a hostile act. The realization unsettles Mukoda. If a dungeon is alive, can it be killed? Fel confirms that it can. Destroying the dungeon core would reduce the entire structure into a mundane hole in the ground, devoid of monsters or treasure. He chuckles and adds that he would never do something so boring. Mukoda sighs as they continue tearing through the floors. At the 10th floor boss room, they encounter several adventurers waiting for their turn. The group explains dungeon etiquette and politely enters the boss chamber ahead of them. After defeating the boss, the adventurers announce that they plan on returning to the surface. They have wives and children waiting for them, and pushing deeper would genuinely risk their lives. Mukoda respects their judgment. He also envies their success in romance. When it's their turn, the boss spider falls almost instantly. The following floors are no different. Eventually, hunger forces them to stop at a safe room. There, a familiar voice calls out to him. It's Team Ironwill. The reunion is warm and lively. Mukoda introduces Dora and Sue as his new familiars. They share stories and food, the latter earning more than a few envious glances from nearby adventurers. Before parting ways, each returning to their own dungeon crawl. As they descend further, the enemies grow stronger and more humanoid. Goblins, orcs, lizardmen, and trolls. None of them pose a serious threat. The dungeon's appearance gradually shifts. Stone walls give way to cavernous mines. Soon they run across their first treasure chest. It's heavily trapped, loaded with lethal poison gas. Mukoda hesitates, ready to abandon it, when Ninrir sends him an oracle. While her blessing alone wouldn't protect him from status effects, the combined effect of 3 minor blessings should nullify it. Trusting her, Mukoda opens the chest, bothered by the smoke, but unharmed. Inside is a small magic bag. As monster encounters increase, some begin targeting Mukoda directly. His confidence steadily grows as he defends himself, using both sword and magic when his familiars don't intervene. Another chest turns out to be a mimic. Mukoda defeats it in a single slash. The ceiling steadily grows higher, and the enemies grow larger. By the time Fel's internal clock tells him that night has fallen, they find another rest area. Mukoda realizes that they've cleared more than half the dungeon floors in a single day. His thoughts are interrupted when a group of adventurers burst into the safe area, carrying a wounded member. Desperate, the man asks if Mukoda has any potions. Mukoda offers him one of Sue's high-grade potions. The effect is immediate and shocking. Overwhelmed with gratitude, the leader pressed 15 gold coins into Mukoda's hands. Mukoda insists that 10 would have been the marketplace standard, but the man argues that extreme circumstances drive up prices. He adds 3 low-grade potions and asks what happened. The leader explains that monster activity has nearly tripled on these floors. His gaze flicks to Fel. He relaxes slightly. He's heard the rumors, and received a direct warning from his guildmaster. Don't mess with the tamer who travels with the Fenrir. Mukoda pulls out food and wonders whether he's becoming famous or infamous. Almost immediately, the smell of his cooking draws Team Tempest. Fresh from a brutal battle, they eagerly offer 6 coins each for a single serving. Mukoda considers it the dungeon tax and accepts. For them, it's the first hot meal they've had in a month. The next morning, Team Tempest heads towards the surface. Mukoda and his familiars turn back towards the depths. Chapter 5. The Invincible Trio. The deeper they go, the more frequently monsters appear. Mukoda finds himself fighting more than expected. In floor 25's boss room, a troll and a minotaur charge him. There's no time to hide behind his familiars. He draws his mithril sword and moves on instinct. The monsters are slower than he imagined, their attacks heavy and predictable. A clean cut through the legs drops the troll. A well-placed thrust to the neck finishes the minotaur. Fel watches the aftermath with a mild approval. "You've learned how to fight," he says. "A little." The boss chest materializes shortly afterward, larger than most. Fel's advanced appraisal reveals 2 traps, a fireball spell and poison gas. Confident in their defenses, they open it without hesitation. Inside are an imperial topaz and a magic regeneration ring. Mukoda equips the ring immediately, relieved to feel the mana returning more smoothly than before. The next floor leaves him speechless. Floor 26 opens into a vast forest, sunlight filtering through the towering trees. Fel explains that this is a field zone, a dungeon environment that mimics the outside world, complete with a day-night cycle. What it lacks, however, are safe zones. For normal adventurers, eating and sleeping here would be extremely dangerous. Mukoda optimistically states he can make a shelter. Fel reminds him that they're in a dungeon, so what they're walking on is not earth. Mukoda wonders how earth mages fare in dungeons. "They don't," Fel says dismissively. Fel's senses make the difference. They identify the strongest presence in the area and head straight for it, ignoring everything else. Killer mantises, murder grizzlies, and paralyzing butterflies all fall before they can mount any resistance. A massive killer hornet nest proves more irritating than dangerous. Fel and Dora complain that there are too many of them, and they're barely worth fighting. Meanwhile, Sue has grown restless, frustrated by the lack of meaningful battles. Mukoda hesitates only briefly before offering a suggestion. What if Sue flooded the entire hive? Fel and Dora both stare at him. They go with the plan. Sue encases the nest with water magic, drowning the hornets en masse. Fel and Dora eliminate the survivors with casual efficiency. Royal jelly is recovered, and Mukoda quietly wonders when he became the ruthless one. The floor boss, a colossal cobra known as a Vaskui, does not last long. With their enhanced stats, the battle ends almost instantly. Mukoda feels a brief flicker of guilt over how unfair it was. Fel activates a magic circle in the boss room, sending them down to the next floor. Floor 27 is another forest field zone. Their buffs remain intact, and they blaze straight through the boss room. The manticore waiting there unsettles Mukoda. The creature's human-like face radiates malice. Fel warns that the manticores are known for deception. They'll play dead, bargain with knowledge, and even plead for their life. Sue, enraged at the thought of somebody fighting dishonorably, is especially motivated, and the battle ends decisively. Floor 28 is a swamp. A single wooden bridge stretches endlessly ahead, surrounded by murky, waist-deep water. The path is obvious, and that alone makes it dangerous. Traps and ambushes come relentlessly. Cooking and resting are impossible. The bridge can barely support their weight. The floor turns into a marathon. They sprint, they fight, they eat on the move. Grotesque monsters resembling catfish, eels, frogs, and monkfish swarm until they reach the boss. An S-rank crocodile named Gustav blocks the bridge. Mukoda climbs onto Fel's back without hesitation. Dora's ice magic and Fel's wind magic force the creature's jaws open, and Sue darts inside, melting it from the inside out. Fel and Dora praise Sue enthusiastically as the massive body collapses. Floor 29 is a desert. The heat is oppressive. Fel's barrier dulls it somewhat, but the complaints are constant. Giant scorpions, sandworms, and their swarms attack without pause. When night approaches, Fel insists that they stop. Traveling after dark would be too dangerous. They sleep huddled together, wrapped in blankets, aided by a portable heater. Midway through the desert, a death sidewinder ambushes them, and Dora tears into it with unrestrained enthusiasm. The boss room houses a massive golem. Dora and Sue's attacks barely scratch it. In the end, coordination wins. Sue drenches the golem in water, and Fel and Dora finish it with lightning. The chest is trapped again. The poison gas is irritating, but the rewards are more than worth it. A necklace granting poison resistance, a medium magic bag, and a yellow diamond. The 30th floor warps them directly to the boss room, and the behemoth attacks immediately. Physical and magical attacks do little at first, but Sue's acid finally pierces its defenses. The creature panics, as if experiencing pain for the first time in its existence. Once its armor melts away, the battle ends in a coordinated assault that reduces the behemoth to dust. Fel congratulates everyone on a job well done. A final chest appears. For once, it isn't trapped. Inside rests a magnificent weapon, the legendary magic sword Calibog. When Mukoda retrieves it, the chest remains instead of disappearing, deciding it must be loot as well. He stores the entire ornate, gem-encrusted thing into his item box. Almost immediately, the familiars start complaining that they're hungry. Fel reassures Mukoda that the boss won't respawn for at least a week. They eat dinner together in the ruined boss room, exhaustion finally catching up to them. With no strength left to move, they decide to sleep there, on the final floor of the dungeon, in the place where they achieved their greatest victory. Chapter 6. I was taken to the Adventurers Guild. They leave the dungeon quietly. At least, that was the intention. A second opening flares to life besides the dungeon entrance. Mukoda and his familiars emerge from the depths. They step out into the lobby in front of stunned adventurers and guards alike. Silence, followed by chaos. Mukoda lowers his head and attempts to walk towards the exit as if nothing unusual happened. He only makes it a few steps before guards block his path and demand an explanation. Fel answers for him. With unmistakable pride, he announces that they have successfully conquered the dungeon. The lobby erupts into panic. Some adventurers shout, others freeze in disbelief. But before Mukoda can process any of it, Elrin comes charging in, grabs him by the arm, and drags him away. Once inside the safety of the guild building, Elrin doesn't give him a moment to breathe. He demands to know everything. What he fought, what they saw, what treasures they recovered. Mukoda opens his item box and scrolls through its contents, listing off an absurd amount of monster parts, leathers, gems. Elrin listens in stunned silence, fully aware that the guild could not buy everything listed. Realizing this, he abruptly changes tactics. He asks about the dungeon itself. Mukoda straightens unconsciously, slipping into a more deliberate tone as he recounts their journey. He explains the dungeon structure changed as they descended. The stone corridors of the dungeon gave way to a mine, which then opened to a forest, Then came a swamp, and finally a desert. Elrond's face drains of color. When he was still an active adventurer in his S-rank party, they almost made it to the Behemoth floor. But their failed expedition only consisted of the forest-type field zone. The dungeon had changed to include a swamp and a desert without his notice. They speak for a long time after that, about monsters and treasures and the dungeon experience. And with that, Book 3's final chapter comes to a close. There is an extra chapter, a little short story at the end of the book. It's titled Tingly Spicy Snacks for Alcohol. At some point, Mukoda finds himself helping out a young E-ranked adventurer named Johannes. He's an aspiring herbalist. He was gathering herbs in the forest when he was attacked by a group of orcs. After getting saved by Mukoda and his familiars, he occasionally sought him out for advice. One evening, over a simple meal, Johannes hesitantly admits that his parents' tavern is struggling. The location is poor, far from the main roads adventurers use, and the foot traffic is dwindling. He offers him everything he has, 6 gold coins, his life savings, in exchange for help. Mukoda refuses the money outright, but agrees to visit the tavern. It doesn't take long to see the problem. The bar is clean, and the atmosphere is welcoming, and the drinks are decent. But nothing memorable. Nothing that would draw adventurers away from the more conveniently located establishments. Johannes shows him the kitchen, hoping for inspiration, but the ingredients are unremarkable. Just as he's about to give up, Johannes reveals what he's been gathering in the forest. Among the herbs are bright red peppers. Johannes' parents grimace at the sight of them, but Mukoda only smiles. They may not like the spice on its own, but they've probably never tried it with alcohol. He has his inspiration. Skeptical but curious, they agree to let him cook. He prepares a simple dish, spicy sausages. The spices pair perfectly with alcohol, sharpening flavors and encouraging more drinking. Word spreads fast, and within a week, the tavern is busy every night. The family is overjoyed, and when he attempts to pay Mukoda, he refuses, instead telling him to invest the money into a proper botany book if he's serious about becoming an herbalist. And that is the end of Book 3. Take it easy, and I'll see you in Book 4.